100 million, leave me. At the company's IPO celebration banquet, my fiancé publicly embraced his first love and threw a check in my face. I didn't cry or make a scene. I picked up the check and walked away. He thought I had accepted my fate, and the next day he even called to mock me. Without me, you are nothing. On the other end of the phone, his assistant screamed in terror, Mr. Ju, something terrible has happened, in the banquet hall of Huaca Biotech's IPO celebration. The crystal chandelier refracted thousands of fragmented beams of light, each one like a cold blade cutting into my skin. The air was filled with the bubbles of expensive champagne and the restrained laughter of successful individuals, and I, Shen Yan, stood in the shadow of a corner, wearing a washed-out lab coat that was completely out of place here, like a ghost who had wandered in by mistake. I don't have time to change clothes, to ensure the flawless data for the IPO roadshow. I've been in the lab for 72 hours straight. It was Jiyu Hurian who called to urge me, saying the celebration party couldn't be without me. He said, Nian Nian, our good days are here, come quickly, everyone is waiting for you. So I came, and then I looked at him, my fiancé, the founder and CEO of Huaca Biotech, Jiyu Hurian, standing under the spotlight that everyone was watching. He was wearing a custom-made handmade suit, his hair meticulously combed, and his handsome face wore a radiant smile. He raised his glass, his voice carrying through the microphone across the entire hall, with just the right mix of excitement and humility. Thank you to all the investors for your unwavering support, and to every member of our team for your hard work and dedication. He expressed gratitude to everyone, the project manager, the marketing director, even his administrative assistant. Each name was spoken with weight and significance, only not me, the chief scientist who turned the regeneration factor technology from a concept into reality, having worked countless all-nighters and devoted 10 years of effort. At that moment, my heart felt as if it were being tightly squeezed by an invisible hand, and it stopped beating. He continued speaking, then suddenly shifted the focus, his gaze becoming incredibly gentle. That gentleness was not meant for me. He reached out and pulled a woman in a white evening gown, with a graceful figure. From the crowd to his side, Xu Ruowei, his white moonlight, a well-known gallery art director. The camera flashes went wild, framing the two of them into a perfect picture. Here, the one I most want to thank is the light of my life, Miss Xu Ruowei. Jiyu Huian's voice was filled with deep affection. It was she who gave me the courage to persevere during my toughest times. She is the sole motivation behind my efforts, and every achievement at Huaca shines for her. The entire hall fell silent at first, then erupted with thunderous applause and cheers. I stood where I was, feeling the blood in my entire body turn cold inch by inch, the only motivation for struggle. What about the 10 years we spent eating instant noodles together and conducting experiments in a leaky basement, when I used my parents' retirement savings to cover the equipment costs to save on expenses? Where was he? It turns out that the shared dream he always talked about was just my solo performance. Amid the applause, Jiyu Hurian, holding Xu Ruowei, walked through the crowd toward me. The tenderness on his face was gone, replaced by a cold, condescending sense of superiority. Xu Ruowei nestled in his arms, her gaze towards me brimming with the pity and pride of a victor. The surrounding guests fell silent, all eyes fixed on me, waiting to see how I would break down. Jiyu Hurian stood still in front of me. He pulled a check from his suit's inner pocket, holding it between two fingers with a slow, deliberate motion that was full of humiliation. Then, he let go. That flimsy piece of paper, like a withered leaf, spiraled down and landed beside my shoes, stained with experimental residue. Shen Yan, you've worked hard these 10 years. His voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. This 100 million is your compensation. From now on, we are even. 100 million. 10 years of youth, 10 years of effort. In his eyes, it's only worth this 100 million. Xu Ruowei's lips curled into a smug smile, and she mouthed to me, you lost. The entire room fell into a deathly silence. Those gazes shifted from watching a show to outright mockery. I could hear their whispers. So she's just an employee. I thought she was the boss's wife. 100 million is no small amount. If it were me, I'd be laughing in my dreams. Mr. Jiyu still has a soft spot for old times. This woman really hit the jackpot. I didn't cry, nor did I make a scene. I didn't even look at Jiyu Huayan's disgusting face, I just slowly bent down. Everyone thought I was about to burst into tears, or humbly pick up that check, but I merely extended my fingertips and, with an almost elegant gesture, pinched that thin piece of paper. Then, I raised it to my lips and gently blew away the non-existent dust on it. This action plunged the entire room into an eerie silence once again. I lifted my head. My gaze calmly sweeping past Jiyu Huiyan and Shu Ruowei, finally settling on Jiyu Huayan's eyes, I nodded calmly at him. Okay, just one word. After a pause, I added another sentence, my voice not loud, but each word clear, wishing you 100 years of happiness together. After saying that, without any lingering attachment, I turned and walked toward the banquet hall's door. My back was held straight. Behind me came Jiyu Huayan's barely suppressed snort of laughter and the relieved murmurs of the guests. In their eyes, I was just a gold digger blinded by money, a sensible loser. I walked out of the hotel, the cold night breeze brushing against my face and lifting my long hair. I lowered my head and looked at the check in my hand, the long string of zeros glaringly bright under the streetlights. I laughed. That smile didn't reach my eyes, yet it was icy and piercing. Jiyu Huiyan. Do you think this is the end? No, this is the beginning of the war. Returning to the home I shared with Jiyu Huiyan, that love nest adorned with our photos and filled with the models he loved, I felt nothing but disgust. I have no attachment whatsoever. Blocking all of Jiyu Huayan's contact information is just the first step. I walked into the study, which also served as my miniature laboratory. I took out the suitcase and began packing. My personal clothing was minimal. Over the past 10 years, I had invested almost all my money into research and development, and what I wore was always the same few t-shirts and jeans that allowed for easy movement. What I truly value are those experimental materials, stacks of notebooks filled with my dense calculations and experimental ideas, 3 encrypted external hard drives containing all the core code and raw data for regeneration factor from the 1st to the 4th generation. These are the true lifeline of Huaca Biotech. I carefully placed them into a fireproof and earthquake-resistant safe. After packing these up, I looked around the room. On the wall hung various young entrepreneur trophies that Jiyu Huiyan had won. In the living room was a limited edition sports car model he had bought for several million yuan. In the walk-in closet, there are hundreds of his designer suits. Not a single one was bought by me. Oh, wait, I should say. They were all bought with the money earned from the technology one developed. I sneered coldly, dragging my suitcase and safe, and closed the door of this place I had lived in for 8 years. No turning back. Exactly midnight, I sat in the hotel suite I had booked in advance and called my lawyer, Attorney Wang. Attorney Wang, you can proceed now. On the other end of the phone, Lawyer Wang's voice was steady. Miss Shin, are you sure? Once initiated, this agreement will take effect immediately. With no room for reversal, I'm sure. My voice was calm and unwavering. All right, I will immediately submit the documents to the legal department of Huaca Biotech and the relevant patent agencies. After hanging up the phone, I gazed out the window at the city's dazzling lights. Jiyu Huiyan, you're probably still celebrating your victory with your white moonlight. Enjoy your last few hours of wealth and glory. The next morning, the glaring sunlight woke me up. I had the most peaceful sleep in 10 years. The phone vibrated wildly on the nightstand. It was an unknown number. I answered it without making a sound. From the other end of the line came Jiyu Huayan's voice, hoarse from a hangover, laced with unconcealed smugness and mockery. Shen Yan, don't regret it. I know you must be hiding in some corner crying right now. I'm telling you, without me, you're nothing. You can't even afford next month's rent, if you know what's good for you. Don't come bothering me again. 100 million is enough for a woman like you to live on for a lifetime. I listened quietly, letting him vent his ridiculous sense of superiority. Only after he finished speaking did I slowly reply, is that so? My voice was so calm it didn't waver in the slightest. Then we'll wait and see. Just as I was about to hang up, a panicked scream suddenly came from the other end of the line. It was the voice of his assistant, Xiao Chen. Mr. Jiyu. Something terrible has happened. Mr. Jiyu. Jiyu Huiyan snapped impatiently. What's all the fuss about? Can't you see I'm on a call? Mr. Jiyu, our servers, the core code repository in our servers has been wiped clean. Access with the highest privileges has been denied. I could hear Jiyu Huayan's breathing instantly grow heavy. What? Hacked? Get the tech department to restore it immediately. Useless bunch. The assistant's voice trembled, on the verge of tears. It's not a hack, Mr. GU, It's an urgent notice just sent by the legal department. All of our company's core technology patents, including the entire regeneration factor series, have been fully and legally transferred as of midnight today to. The assistant seemed afraid to utter that name, the words catching in their throat. Gu Huarian roared into the phone. Transferred to whose name? Speak up, under MS, Shenyan's personal name, and also, the regeneration factor technology we rely on for survival. The technology licensing agreement we signed with MS, Shenyan, has also been unilaterally terminated due to certain clauses. Mr. GU, we're just an empty shell now. Bang, a loud crash. I could clearly hear the sound of Gu Huaiyan's phone smashing to the ground, shattering into pieces. Immediately following was Shu Ruowei's scream, accompanied by a series of chaotic, panicked noises. I hung up the phone with an expressionless face. I walked over to the huge floor-to-ceiling window and drew back the curtains. A brand new sun was bursting forth from the horizon, radiant and brilliant. I take a deep breath. The air carries the fresh scent after the rain. Gu Huarian, a new war has begun. My phone starts ringing frantically. It's his office landline. His other private numbers, one by one, I calmly block them all. Then, shut down. The world fell silent. Gu Huarian found me at 3 in the afternoon. I was sitting in the executive lounge on the top floor of the hotel, leisurely sipping afternoon tea while discussing my future career plans with a headhunting firm. He was like an enraged beast, his eyes bloodshot, his hair disheveled, his suit jacket crumpled and draped over his arm. Completely devoid of the confident demeanor he had shown yesterday, he must have found this place by checking my credit card spending records. Shenyan, he roared my name, rushed over, and grabbed my wrist. The force was so great, it almost crushed my bones. The surrounding guests were startled, casting sidelong glances. Why did you do this, you venomous woman? Haven't I treated you well? Isn't 100 million enough? His spittle nearly sprayed onto my face. I frowned in disgust and flung my hand away with force. Perhaps he hadn't slept all night and was physically weak, or perhaps he didn't expect me to dare resist. But I actually managed to break free from his grip, on my wrist. 5 distinct red marks instantly appeared. I raised my eyes, my gaze colder and fiercer than his. 100 million, I sneered, my voice not loud but filled with penetrating force. Gu Huarian, are you asking me if 100 million is enough to buy out my 10 years of youth? Or are you asking me if 100 million is enough to buy the life of your Huaca biotech? He was choked by my words, frozen in place. I slowly pulled out a stack of documents from my bag. It was a copy of the agreement, papers scattered at his feet, just like the check he threw at me yesterday. Open your damn eyes and see clearly. I tore off all my gentle disguises, my voice suddenly rising sharply. At the beginning of our venture, we signed the final ownership agreement for technical patents in black and white. It clearly states that all technologies I led in developing for the company, along with their final patent ownership rights, are under my personal name, Shenyan. You were in charge of operations, and I was in charge of technology. Until you fully delivered on that 40% company equity, I exclusively licensed the technology to Huaca Biotech for use. It was you. To make room for your noble white moonlight, Shu Ruowei, and to let her marry you, the self-made business magnate, in a grand manner, you delayed fulfilling my equity before the IPO. It was you who first tore up the agreement between us. Gu Huaiyan's face instantly turned deathly pale. He stared fixedly at the documents on the floor, his eyes filled with disbelief. He probably never took this document seriously, the one he signed back then to placate me and let me focus on research and development. In his eyes, I was just his appendage. My talent, my skills, were naturally all his. I looked at his devastated state and felt it wasn't enough yet. Slowly, I raised my hand and took off the black-framed glasses that had been with me for 10 years. These glasses were both a tool for my convenience in conducting experiments and a disguise to hide all my sharp edges. I casually placed the glasses on the table, and facing his shocked gaze, I revealed a cold smile. Do you really think that you, who can only make PowerPoint presentations, who only knows how to boast on stage, and who can't even recite the most basic molecular formula of regeneration factor, could have created all of this out of thin air. My voice was soft, yet every word struck at the heart. Ji Huarian, you were never a business genius. You were nothing more than a puppet I pushed to the forefront. The word puppet struck Ji Huaiyan's most fragile and proud self-esteem like a heavy hammer. He staggered back 2 steps, his face turning from pale to ashen, his body swaying unsteadily. He looked at me, and for the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. He might have just realized that the woman before him was no longer the Shenyang he could easily manipulate and dismiss with money. He began to soften his tone, his voice changing pitch. Nian Nian, it's a misunderstanding. All of this is a misunderstanding. He tried to grab my hand again, but I dodged it in disgust. I just wanted to give you a surprise after the company goes public. I've already prepared that 40% equity, and that 100 million, it's for your pocket money. This lie, even he himself didn't believe it. Give the technology back to me. Okay, let's start over. I'll break up with Xu Ruowei right away. I'll give you more money. No, I'll give you half the company. No, 60%. Nyan, please. He began to ramble incoherently, like a gambler who had lost all his chips. I coldly interrupted him. It's too late. My voice was calm and unruffled. From the moment you threw that check at my feet in front of everyone at the victory banquet, in my eyes, Huaka Biotech is already dead. And you, Ji Huarian, I said, looking at his blood-drained face, enunciating each word clearly, are not even worthy of being buried with it. Huaka Biotech's core technology patents change hands overnight, leaving the company an empty shell, newly minted unicorn accused of fraudulent listing, founder Ji Huarian deeply mired in scandal. The day after I pulled the rug out from under them, such headlines flooded the front pages of all financial sections. The stock price of Huaka Biotech opened with a limit-down drop. Countless retail investors are wailing online, cursing Ji Huarian as a fraud. The company's main switchboard and public relations department phone lines were overwhelmed with calls. Ji Huarian has completely lost his mind. The first thing he did was to hire the most elite legal team in the industry, aggressively threatening to sue me for commercial embezzlement and theft of trade secrets. However, when my lawyer, Attorney Wang, slapped the original copy of the final technology patent ownership agreement in their faces, a document with clear, airtight terms and Ji Huaiyan's personal signature, the opposing side's luxurious legal team was instantly silenced. The agreement explicitly stated that all patents belonged to me personally, and it included an additional clause. If Ji Huarian failed to fulfill his equity commitment before the company went public, or if he engaged in any form of breach or betrayal, I had the right to unilaterally and unconditionally terminate all technology authorizations without bearing any legal liability. Back then, he signed so readily to put my mind at ease, and now he is just as desperate. With legal avenues blocked, Ji Huarian began to employ the public opinion tactics he excels at. He spent a fortune hiring internet trolls and marketing accounts to launch a smear campaign against me online. Love turned to hate. A jealous woman steals company assets to get revenge on her ex-boyfriend, exposing the vicious woman behind Huaka Biology, who will stop at nothing to climb the ladder. For a moment, I was portrayed as a madwoman who would destroy everything if she couldn't have love. Various indecent photos were posted online, and rumors were fabricated about my chaotic private life. In the face of these slanders, I have not made any public response. Arguing with a madman only lowers my own standards. I just quietly submitted some evidence to the China Securities Regulatory Commission and mainstream financial media through lawyer Wang. Not much, only 2 things. First, the statement in Huaka Biotech's IPO prospectus regarding the company possesses core technology with completely independent intellectual property rights is a false statement. Second, as the sole holder of the core technology patent, I have never transferred the patent ownership to the company, and Ji Huarian is suspected of fraudulent listing. This time, it really stirred up a hornet's nest. This is no longer a simple commercial dispute, it has escalated to the level of criminal offense. The China Securities Regulatory Commission immediately announced an investigation into Huaka Biotech. The company's stock price embarked on an endless journey of limit downs. Once the shareholders who had once admired Ji Huarian now surrounded him like sharks drawn to the scent of blood. The board meeting was urgently convened. the atmosphere so tense it could drip water. Ji Huarian, you must give us an explanation. Why is the company's core technology in the hands of an outsider? Fraudulent listing. Do you know what the consequences are? We'll all be dragged down with you. Immediately, right now, get the patent back, otherwise, you can just wait to be kicked out. Ji Huarian was cornered by the shareholders of the board, nearly driven to the brink of collapse. He came to me once again. This time, he didn't dare to barge into the hotel again, but instead waited humbly downstairs for the entire night. The next day when I went out, I saw him with a stubbly beard and bloodshot eyes, looking like a stray dog. Beside him stood two more people, my parents. Seeing them, my heart sank. The moment my mom saw me, her eyes welled up with tears, and she rushed over to grab my hand. Nyan Nyan, how could you be so foolish? Huayan has already explained to us. It was all a misunderstanding. Hurry and return the things to them. Don't make a scene. My father also had a stern face and said in a deep voice, Shen Nyan, how did we raise you? One must be honest and kind. Huayan has treated you well. How could you do something that ruins his career? Ji Huarian stood to the side, immediately putting on a look of grievance and deep affection. Uncle, aunt, it's all my fault. I didn't handle things well and made Nian Nian feel wronged. Nian Nian, listen to me. There's really nothing between me and Shu Ruowei. It was all just for company socializing. Watching them play off each other, I felt nothing but absurdity and heartbreak. My own parents didn't ask what I had suffered or how I had been these past 10 years. Their first reaction was to blame me and tell me to consider the bigger picture. In their eyes, their daughter's dignity and happiness were far less important than having a promising son-in-law. I didn't argue with them. I simply took out my phone from my bag and pressed the play button. The clear voice of Ji Huarian came through. It was exactly the phone call he had made to me yesterday morning. Without me, you are nothing. You can't even afford next month's rent. 100 million is enough for a woman like you to live on for a lifetime. That contemptuous, mocking tone echoed through the quiet hotel lobby, especially piercing. My parents' faces instantly froze, their mouths agape, unable to utter a single word. Ji Huaiyan's face instantly turned ashen. He probably never dreamed that I would actually record it. I turned off the recording and looked at him coldly. Ji Huarian, do you still need me to play the video in front of your uncle and aunt? Showing how you threw 100 million check at my feet during the celebration banquet. He trembled all over, his lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. I turned to look at my parents, my voice devoid of any emotion. Dad, Mom, this is the good son-in-law you said treated me well. From today on, I don't want to hear this person's name again. After saying that, I didn't look at any of them again, turning around and stepping into the taxi that had been waiting for a long time. As the car started moving, I saw from the rearview mirror that Ji Huarian was kneeling on the ground in despair, while my parents stood there, at a loss. I took out my phone and sent a message to Ji Huarian. The game has only just begun. Enjoy the bitter fruit you've sown with your own hands. Just as Ji Huaiyan was being cornered by me, running into walls everywhere and overwhelmed with troubles, an unexpected person came to find me. Lu Ziyuan, the founder of Yuanxing Capital. One of the top investors in the country, he is also Ji Huaiyan's biggest rival in the business world. Rumors say he has a sharp eye and ruthless methods, a true business tycoon. He didn't frantically call me like Ji Huarian did. Instead, he politely sent a meeting invitation through lawyer Wang. The location is at a highly private Chinese-style club. When I arrived, he was already there. He was wearing a well-tailored dark grey suit without a tie, exuding a calm yet sharp presence. Upon seeing me, he stood up and extended his hand. Dr. Shen, hello, I'm Lu Ziyuan. His palm was warm and strong. His eyes held no trace of condescension, only an equal measure of scrutiny and appreciation. Hello, Mr. Lu. We took our seats, and the tea master served us the finest Da Hong Pao tea. He got straight to the point, without a single unnecessary word. Dr. Shen, I've been following your work for a long time. I was somewhat taken aback. He smiled and continued. Ever since Huaka Biotech released the first generation of regeneration factor technology, I've been paying attention. I always found it odd. The foresight and rigor demonstrated by that technology were completely at odds with Ji Huaiyan's own flashy, self-aggrandizing style. It wasn't until the recent news came out that everything clicked for me. The true soul of Huaca Biotech is you. These words stirred something within me. Over the past decade, everyone has only seen the public-facing Gu Huayan, but only this person has seen the essence through the surface. He pushed a document in front of me. This is the cooperation plan I've prepared for you. You can take a look first. I opened the file, my pupils slightly contracting. Yuanxing Capital invested 2 billion renminbi to establish a brand new biotechnology company. I contributed all core technologies as equity, holding a 51% stake. I will serve as the chief scientist and co-CEO of the new company, with veto power, especially over all research and development-related decisions. This contract offers terms so generous they are astonishing. More importantly, it represents absolute respect and trust in me. Gu Huarian spent 10 years and still refused to honor that 40% equity. Yet Lu Ziyuan, a stranger I've only met once, is willing to hand over the company's absolute controlling stake directly. I closed the file, looked up, and stared at him. Why me? Lu Ziyuan picked up the teacup, took a gentle sip, and gazed at me with intense eyes. Because genius deserves the best price. Because I also want to see what kind of brilliance a great technology can shine in the hands of someone who truly understands it. Rather than being used as a tool for fame and reputation by a speculator, his words struck a chord with me. I didn't hesitate any longer. I agree, right then and there, in the presence of the lawyer. We signed this cooperation agreement. I named the new company Phoenix Biotech, symbolizing rebirth from the ashes. Lu Ziyuan's ability to take action is truly remarkable. As soon as the signing ceremony ended, he immediately arranged a press conference. It was the afternoon when Huaca Biotech's stock price hit its 7th consecutive limit down. The press conference was packed with media, and the flashlights were as bright as daylight. For the first time, I officially stepped into the spotlight as Shen Yan, chief scientist and co-CEO of Phoenix Biotech. I took off my white lab coat and black-rimmed glasses, changed into a sharp white suit skirt prepared for me by Lu Ziyuan's team, and applied a refined and powerful makeup look. The moment I stepped onto the stage, I could see the undisguised amazement and confusion in the eyes of the reporters below. They probably found it hard to connect the coldly elegant and confident woman before them with the jealous madwoman who had been smeared in the news just days before. After taking my place behind the podium, I wasted no time and immediately dropped a bombshell. Phoenix Biotech will officially release the upgraded Regeneration Factor 2.0 technology to the global market within 3 months. This technology will achieve over 5 times the efficiency in cell repair and regeneration compared to all current similar products on the market, including Huaca Biotech's Regeneration Factor 1.0. At the same time, production costs will be reduced by 70%. Upon hearing this announcement, the entire audience erupted in an uproar. All the reporters have gone crazy. Questions are flooding in like a tide. Performance increased 5-fold, costs reduced by 70%. This news is no less than a direct death sentence for Huaca Biotech. I look at the flashing lights below the stage, knowing that from this moment on, the balance of power has completely reversed. Gu Huarian, your good days are over. The effect of the press conference was immediate. The next day, Huaca Biotech's stock once again hit the limit down without any suspense after the market opened. The difference was that this time, no one held any illusions about it anymore. Gu Huaiyan was completely driven into a corner. He thought that all I had taken away were just those few patent documents. He naively believed that as long as the road team remained, he could have them replicate my technology, at least barely keeping the company afloat. So, he gathered all the employees from the road department, offered them triple the salary, and demanded that they replicate the regenerative factor technology in the shortest possible time. This news was secretly told to me by my senior, Li Hao, who is also the head of the Bioresearch and Development Department at Huaca. When I received his call, I was in the new office of Phoenix Biotech, discussing the laboratory renovation plan with Lu Ziyuan. Li Hao's voice on the other end of the phone was filled with anger and helplessness. Junior sister Shen Yan, that fool Gu Huarian has gone mad. Does he think scientific research is like buying cabbage at a market? Does he think it can just be replicated at will? Without your original data and algorithm models, we can't even figure out the most basic culture-medium ratios. He's been cursing at everyone in the department every day, calling us useless and saying we're taking money without doing any work. The team is almost driven crazy by him. I listened quietly. An amateur leading professionals, this is the most fatal flaw of opportunists like Gu Huaiyan. He will never understand how many years of accumulation and countless trials and errors lie behind a top-tier technology. He only sees the results, but never respects the process. I said only one sentence into the phone. Senior brother, I have a brand new research topic here, a brand new lab, and a brand new future. Would you like to join me in doing something truly great? There was a full half-minute of silence on the other end of the phone. Then, Li Hao's voice came through again. Filled with an irrepressible excitement and determination, I do, junior sister. Just tell us what you want us to do. It's simple, I said. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, bring all the trustworthy brothers to the Phoenix Biology Building. I'll be waiting for you. The next day, at the headquarters of Huaka Biotech, the most dramatic scene since the company's founding unfolded, at exactly 9 a.m., led by Li Hao, the head of the road department, the entire core road team, totaling 37 people, collectively submitted their resignation letters to the HR department. Then, they packed up their personal belongings and walked out of the building where they had worked hard for many years without any attachment. The HR manager was so shocked that he rushed to the CEO's office on the top floor, forgetting even to knock on the door. Mr. Gu, something terrible has happened. The entire road department, they've all resigned. It is said that when Gu Huaiyan received this news, he was stunned for a full minute. Then, as if gone mad, he smashed everything in the office that could be broken into pieces: the expensive antique vase, his treasured sports car model, the huge floor-to-ceiling window. The entire CEO's office was in complete disarray. He finally understood. What I took away was not just the technical patents. What I took away was the very root of Huaka Biotech, its soul, and the hearts of its people. Without its technology and having lost all its core road talent, Huaka Biotech could no longer even maintain updates and iterations of its existing products. It had completely turned into a worthless, hollow shell. At this moment, in front of the brand new building of Phoenix Biotech, I looked at Li Hao and the more than 30 familiar faces behind him, their eyes all shining with trust and anticipation. Dr. Shun, they shouted excitedly upon seeing me. Finally, we can follow you and work hard. I looked at them, feeling a warm surge in my heart. This is my real team. I nodded heavily. Welcome home. Seeing that Gu Huaiyan's influence was waning and her dream of becoming a wealthy socialite was about to vanish, Xu Ruowei could no longer sit still. She launched a series of frantic and foolish counterattacks. First, she posted a tearful, lengthy essay on her social media. In the article, she portrayed herself as an innocent, kind-hearted victim who was dragged down by love. She claimed that she and Gu Huaiyan were truly in love, but they were subjected to the relentless revenge of me, the scheming ex. She attributed all of Gu Huaiyan's failures to my malice and jealousy. The article was written with genuine emotion, accompanied by a few tearful selfies of her, which indeed managed to win the sympathy of many uninformed netizens. The hashtag #FeelingXuRuowei was once pushed to the trending list by her hired trolls. She even photoshopped some pictures of me intimately entering and leaving hotels with different men, spreading rumors about my chaotic private life to attack my character. As for these clownish performances, I couldn't even be bothered to step in personally. Lu Ziyuan's public relations team is not to be underestimated. They didn't consult with me and immediately launched the swiftest and most effective counterattack. They didn't engage in arguments with the trolls, nor did they try to clarify those poorly photoshopped images. Instead, they directly contacted one of the most authoritative art media outlets in the country and presented solid evidence. The evidence revealed that Xu Ruowei's representative painting First Snow, which had earned her fame during her university years and won the National Art Exhibition gold medal, was actually plagiarized from the work of a deceased classmate. Once this scandal broke, public opinion instantly reversed. A so-called art director who rose to prominence by plagiarizing others' work. Can anything she says be trusted even half as much? Xu Ruowei's image as a talented woman shattered into pieces. She went from being a pitted white moonlight to a universally condemned art thief in the blink of an eye. The gallery she worked for, in an effort to distance itself, immediately issued a statement and fired her. The wealthy heirs and celebrities who once admired her now avoided her at all costs. Xu Ruowei was completely disgraced, pushed to the brink. She resorted to the most desperate act, becoming a corporate spy. She probably thought that since I could use technology to defeat Jiyu Huarian, she could also use the same method to steal my new technology and make a stunning comeback. She spent money to bribe a newly hired cleaner at my company, planning to sneak into my office late at night and copy the data from my computer. All of this was within the expectations of both Lu Ziyuan and me. The security system at Phoenix Biotech was designed by a top global team hired by Lu Ziyuan, not to mention a cleaner. Even if a fly flew in, we would know. I'll turn their scheme to my advantage. On my office computer, I intentionally placed an encrypted set of fake materials. The name of the materials is highly enticing: Regeneration Factor 2.0 Core Algorithm, Final Version. But in reality, it's just a bunch of meaningless gibberish, and a tracking program that would trigger an alarm immediately upon being copied. On the night they had agreed to make the trade, the bribed janitor sneaked into my office and inserted the USB drive into my computer. He had no idea that his every move was being live-streamed to me, Lu Ziyuan, and the police through a pinhole camera, when he and Xu Ruowei were in the underground garage, exchanging money for the USB drive. I arrived with the police and a large group of journalists who had rushed to the scene, appearing right in front of them. Camera flashes went off frantically, clearly illuminating Xu Ruowei's terrified, twisted, and utterly despairing face. Caught red-handed, commercial espionage. This charge alone is enough to keep her in prison for several years. When the police handcuffed her and took her away, she was acting like a madwoman, still screaming Jiyu Huaiyan's name. Huarian, save me. You told me to do this, save me. The next day, in order to protect himself, Jiyu Huarian immediately issued a cold statement through his already defunct company. The statement declared that all actions of Miss Xu Ruowei are her personal conduct and have no relation whatsoever to our company or Mr. Jiyu Huarian himself. Mr. Jiyu was completely unaware of her actions and expressed strong condemnation. When disaster strikes, everyone flees for themselves. How ironic. This is the true love that Xu Ruowei risked everything to obtain. I watched the news, seeing Xu Ruowei being escorted into the police car in a disheveled state, but I felt no joy in my heart, only a sense of indifference. Foolish people always pay the price for their own foolishness. The delisting and liquidation process of Huaka Biotech proceeded even faster than expected, due to fraudulent listing. The company not only faced astronomical fines from the China Securities Regulatory Commission but also had to compensate shareholders for their massive losses. All of Jiyu Huaiyan's assets, including real estate and luxury cars, have been frozen and auctioned off by the court. Even so, the debts still outweigh the assets. He went from being a newly minted billionaire to a penniless man drowning in debt overnight. He began drinking heavily every day, hiding in a cheap rental apartment. Too afraid to face anyone, it is said that he kept looking at our old photos, repeatedly murmuring my name, filled with deep regret. Finally, on a stormy night with lightning and thunder, he broke down, soaked to the bone, looking like a drowned ghost. He appeared downstairs at my new apartment. He knelt in the cold rain, head tilted back, screaming my name over and over again. Nyan Nyan, Shen Nyan, I was wrong, I was really wrong. Please come back, okay, I beg you to come back. I can't live without you. I don't want the company anymore. I don't want the money anymore. I don't want anything anymore. I just want you. The cry was as mournful as a cuckoo weeping blood. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window on the 23rd floor, wearing a soft silk nightgown, holding a cup of warm milk in my hand, and coldly watched the tiny, humble figure below. Lu Ziyuan walked over from behind and gently draped a warm cashmere cardigan over my shoulders. He didn't ask me anything. Just stood quietly by my side, offering me the most solid and silent support. Downstairs, Jiyu Huaiyan's cries grew louder and louder, attracting the attention of the community security guards. He struggled like a madman, refusing to leave, still shouting loudly about the days we had endured hardships together. Nyen Nyen, have you forgotten the days when we shared instant noodles and split a single steamed bun? Have you forgotten that you said you would help me build a technology empire that belongs to us, our dream? Have you forgotten it all? I watched his clumsy performance with a blank expression, finding it nothing but laughable. Dream, His dream was to step on my shoulders to welcome his white moonlight. I took out my phone, didn't answer his call, and didn't go down to see him. I just sent him one last message. Gu Hurian, stop pretending. What you miss was never me as a person. What you miss is that tool that could selflessly dedicate itself to you, letting you step on its shoulders to achieve success and satisfy all your vanity. Pity, that tool has autonomously upgraded and permanently blacklisted you, a subpar user. After sending this message, I drew the curtains. Shutting out all the noise from outside, I said to Lu Ziyuan beside me, let the security handle it, I don't want to see him again. Lu Ziyuan nodded and made a phone call. Soon. The crying and shouting downstairs faded away. I knew that Jiu Huayan's self-directed, chasing his wife to the crematorium drama had ended hastily without even a decent audience. As for me, I couldn't even be bothered to scatter his ashes. 3 months later, the global launch event for Phoenix Bio's Regeneration Factor 2.0 was grandly held at the National Convention Center. The venue was packed to capacity, with top global tech media, capital giants, and representatives from medical institutions all gathered together. The day before the launch event, I made a decision. I had my assistant send an invitation to Gu Huarian, the first row, center seat, the most prestigious VIP spot. Lu Ziyuan was somewhat puzzled. Why do you still want to see him? I smiled. I want him to witness with his own eyes what he has lost. I want him to personally crown my glory. On the day of the press conference, Gu Huarian actually came. He was wearing an ill-fitting, cheap suit, his hair was grey, and his eyes were dull, standing out starkly among the well-dressed elites around him. He looked like a down-and-out actor who had wandered onto the wrong set, sitting there awkwardly and looking utterly lost. When the press conference began, and I confidently walked onto the stage in a custom-made red gown, all the spotlights in the room were focused on me. I saw Gu Huarian. He looked up, staring at me blankly. In his eyes, there was shock, regret, and an indescribable pain. I ignored him. I used the most professional and clearest language to demonstrate to the world the epoch-making significance of Regenerative Factor 2.0 when the clinical trial data of the new technology was displayed on the big screen, showing a repair efficiency 10 times that of the previous generation, with no side effects, and at only 1/10 of the cost. The entire audience erupted in prolonged applause. Everyone knew that a new era had arrived, and Huaka Biotech, along with its pitiful 1.0 technology, had been completely swept into the dustbin of history. At the end of the press conference, all the proceedings had concluded. I did not leave the stage immediately. I walked back to the center of the stage, and the spotlight once again followed my figure. I picked up the microphone and said with a smile, "Here, at the most glorious moment for Phoenix Biotech, I would like to give special thanks to one person." The entire venue fell silent, everyone looking at me curiously. All the media cameras were focused on me. I want to thank the former CEO of Huaka Biotech, Mr. Gu Huarian. As soon as this name was mentioned, the entire venue erupted in an uproar. All eyes, in unison, like searchlights, turned toward Gu Huarian sitting in the front row. He looked up blankly, like a struggling student publicly called out, completely at a loss. I looked at him, the smile on my face growing even brighter. I want to thank him for the 100 million breakup fee he generously gave me at the celebration banquet for Huaca's IPO. It was that money that became the first angel round investment for our Phoenix Biotech. Without that crucial startup capital, Phoenix Biotech might not have been born so quickly, and Regeneration Factor 2.0 wouldn't have been introduced to everyone so soon. So, Mr. Gu, I raised the microphone in my hand across the distance, as if toasting him. Thank you for making it possible. But, as soon as my words fell, the entire room fell into a deathly silence, followed by an eruption of roaring laughter and applause like a mountain collapsing and a tsunami surging. Everyone understood the extreme irony embedded in that thank you. It was the most magnificent, yet also the cruelest, public execution. I returned the favor 100-fold, 1,000-fold, in the exact same way he had humiliated me back then, amidst the mocking, disdainful, and pitying gazes of everyone present. Gu Huayan's face flushed a deep, purplish red. He began to cough violently, his body swaying as he pointed a trembling finger at me, his lips quivering without uttering a single word. In the end, Unable to bear the overwhelming humiliation and shock any longer, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed backward, stiff as a board. The scene was in chaos. I stood on the high stage, watching coldly as he was carried away on a stretcher by medical staff. In my heart, there was no ripple of emotion. My great revenge had been achieved. After the press conference, Gu Huiyan was rushed to the hospital, but what awaited him was not warm condolences, but the cold summons from the court. Charged with multiple crimes, including fraudulent listing, providing false financial reports, and maliciously hollowing out company assets. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and faced unimaginably huge fines. His life was completely marked with a disgraceful end, and Xu Ruowei was also sentenced to 3 years in prison for commercial espionage and past plagiarism cases. This once glamorous perfect couple, in the world of fame and fortune, ultimately reunited in prison. They completely vanished from high society, becoming a laughingstock and topic of conversation for people after meals. Phoenix Biotech, after the press conference, saw its valuation soar all the way, successfully landing on Nasdaq. On the day of the IPO bell ringing, I stood in the trading hall of the New York Stock Exchange, wearing the same red gown as at the launch event, and personally struck the bell that symbolized wealth and glory. Lu Ziyuan stood beside me, his eyes filled with undisguised admiration and pride. Amidst countless flashes and cheers, we exchanged a knowing smile. My new office, located on the top floor of the city's premier office building, offers a breathtaking 360-degree panoramic view of the city. I had someone frame that $100 million check in the most expensive walnut wood frame and hung it on the wall directly opposite my desk. Next to it hangs a photo of me, Lu Ziyuan, and our entire team taken at the bell-ringing ceremony for Phoenix Biotech's IPO. Everyone who comes to my office sees this peculiar decorative painting. It constantly reminds me, never, ever dim your light for anyone or anything that isn't worth it. It also reminds me that all humiliation and harm, as long as you are strong enough, will eventually become the most brilliant medals on your path to success. His life, his suffering, his regrets, they are nothing more than a trivial footnote. A page long turned, at the beginning of my brilliant and glorious life. That's all. Now listen to the next story. Lin Shen's voice, carrying the chill of Siberia, instantly froze the entire finance department. He had just returned from a business trip overseas, still covered in the dust of travel, not even having time to take off his suit jacket. Everyone fell silent, watching the chairman, who was usually as elusive as a dragon. A document was handed over with trembling hands. Lin Shen snatched it away, his gaze sweeping over the list like a hawk. When he saw that name, it felt as if all the blood in his body had frozen. He abruptly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot, like an enraged lion. Su Qing. He slammed the document onto the table with a deafening crash, roaring at the stunned CEO and HR director, who approved the layoff list. Who the hell fired my wife? 01 signing the resignation, waking from a year-long dream. Su Qing. This is the termination agreement. Take a look and sign if there are no issues. The severance pay will be N+1. HR manager Zhong Li pushed the document in front of me, a faint trace of disdain curling at the corner of her mouth. Her fingers, painted with bright red nail polish, tapped lightly on the desk, as if she was savoring a well-scripted drama. Without a moment's hesitation, I picked up the pen and signed my name on the last page. The strokes were clean and decisive, just like my mood at that moment. Done. I pushed the document back. Zhong Li seemed slightly taken aback by my calmness, but quickly resumed her businesslike demeanor. All right. Go pack your things. Clear your desk within half an hour. I nodded and turned to walk toward the cubicle where I had spent the past 5 years. The air around me was thick with an unusual tension. Whispers, like sticky spiderwebs, seemed to coil around me from all directions. See, I told you she wasn't up to it. What's the use of burying your head in work all day if you don't know how to flatter the boss? I heard manager Zhong was the one pushing for this round of layoffs. Su Qing apparently argued with her before over some reimbursement process. Serves you right. With no background or backing, you still dared to be so arrogant. Schadenfreude, feigned sympathy, cold indifference. The familiar faces now seemed utterly strange. I paid no attention to anyone, silently packing my personal belongings one by one into a cardboard box. On the computer desktop was a photo of Lin Shen and me at the beach. I quickly deleted it and then formatted the entire hard drive. 5 years ago, when Lin Shen and I got married, he had just taken over this company on the brink of bankruptcy. To avoid suspicion and prove my own worth, I chose to conceal my marital status and joined the company as an ordinary accountant. Over these 5 years, I accompanied the company as it climbed step by step out of the mud, growing into the industry giant it is today. I started with the most basic task of pasting receipts and eventually took on the financial accounting for the company's 3 most critical and profitable projects independently. I developed a unique reconciliation system, complex in process but highly efficient, and over the 5 years, not a single cent was ever off. I thought my hard work and abilities were enough to secure my place here, but reality gave me a resounding slap in the face. It turns out that in the tangled web of office politics, pure professional competence is so fragile and easily defeated. The last item I placed in the box was an unremarkable mug, printed with a cute, silly-looking cat. It was a gift from Lin Shen before he went on a business trip. He said I work like a little tiger, but in life, I'm still as adorable as a cat. As I carried the box and walked out of the company's main entrance, the afternoon sunlight was a bit harsh. I glanced back at the towering office building, feeling no resentment in my heart, only a sense of calm, as if I had been set free. Lin Shen, I've guarded your business empire to this point, and I consider that I've done my utmost. From now on, I'm going to find my own sky. 02 after bath, drinking alone, rejecting incoming calls. Back at the apartment I shared with Lin Shen in the suburbs, the first thing I did was take a long, luxurious hot bath. The warm water flowed over my skin, as if washing away the exhaustion and grievances of the past 5 years. I didn't cry, nor did I feel angry. For me, being laid off felt more like a forced vacation. Over the past 5 years, I have poured almost all my energy into my work, spinning like a tightly wound top every day, with hardly any time to share a proper meal with Lin Shen. He always says I don't take care of myself, and it pains him to see me so exhausted. Perhaps it's for the best that I leave, wrapped in a bathrobe. I poured myself a glass of red wine and sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing down at the bustling traffic of the city. Lin Shen has been in Europe for nearly a month now for business negotiations, and according to the plan, he won't be back for another 3 days. For now, I don't want to tell him that I've been laid off. Given his temperament, he would likely cut the negotiations short and fly back immediately, or even turn the company upside down. I don't want my situation to affect his important work. More importantly, I want to rely on my own abilities to find my next job, rather than being invited back to the company as the chairman's wife. My phone screen lit up. It was a video call request from Lin Shen. I hesitated for a moment, muted the phone, and turned it face down on the table. I haven't yet figured out what expression or tone to use when facing him. I opened my laptop and started refreshing various job search websites. With my 5 years of experience in core project finance, finding a decent job shouldn't be too difficult. Looking at the job postings on the screen, my mood actually grew more relaxed. I even started planning where to travel once I received my first paycheck from the new job. The phone rang tirelessly again and again, finally falling silent, leaving only a series of missed calls and a few messages. Ching ching, why aren't you answering the phone? Are you busy again? Remember to eat on time. The negotiations on my end are going very smoothly. I'll be back home the day after tomorrow. Have you missed me? Looking at his gentle words, my nose tingled slightly. Lin Shen, you fool, you still don't know that your little accountant has already been kicked out. I turned off my phone, shutting out all the noise. Tonight, I just want to be Su Ching again, not someone's employee, nor someone's wife. 03 System lockdown financial paralysis. On the second day after I left the heart of the storm, the finance department of Windrush Group still maintained a facade of calm. My workstation was quickly taken over by a new intern, who was frantically sorting through the handover documents left by her predecessor, just a few pages I had hastily written in half an hour, covering only the most routine reimbursement procedures. Personnel manager Zhong Li, holding a cup of coffee and clicking her high heels, made a round of inspection in the office. When she saw the empty seat that once belonged to me, a triumphant smile curled at the corner of her mouth. In her view, removing a disobedient nail and establishing her own authority were far more important than an accountant's professional skills. However, the tranquility was broken at 3 in the afternoon. "Hello. Is this the finance department of Fonkai Group? I'm from Starlight Technology. Why hasn't last month's payment been credited yet?" The contract clearly states that it should be settled by the end of the month. The first collection call reached the front desk, and even the receptionist's sweet voice couldn't calm the other party's anger. The call was transferred to the finance department, where a veteran employee picked up. He tried to calm the caller while searching for the bill in the system, but he quickly realized something was off. "Strange. Why are all the statements for the Starlight project encrypted?" he muttered. Frowning at the computer screen, another accountant responsible for the Neptune project also encountered the same issue. "Same here. The supplier accounts for Neptune require an independent verification code to access, and only Su Qing knows this code. Oh my god, Galaxy Heart is the same. All the core data is locked in Su Qing's personal accounting system." For a moment, the entire finance department was in an uproar. These 3 projects were currently the most profitable and involved the most high-profile partners for the company, especially Starlight Technology, whose boss was notoriously hot-tempered. Any delay in payment would not only result in hefty penalties but could also lead to an immediate termination of the partnership. The financial director, Fatty Liu, was alarmed. With his beer belly protruding, he rushed to the computer, sweating profusely, and tried to crack it himself. But after fiddling with it for a long time, he was also at a loss when faced with the complex system built from countless functions and logical chains. Who created this system? Why is it completely different from the company's main financial system in terms of logic? Fatty Liu wiped the sweat from his forehead, his face pale. "It's Su Qing. She thought the company's system processes were too slow, so she created this set herself, claiming it could improve efficiency. Since there were never any mistakes, we just let it be," an employee whispered in response. "Didn't take care of it. Now there's trouble. Hurry up and call her. Make her hand over the password and the operating method." Liu Pengzi roared. Zhong Li also realized the seriousness of the matter and quickly dialed my number. However, all that came from the receiver was the cold, automated system message. "The number you have dialed is powered off. 0 for the storm breaks. Lin Shen returns." Panic spread through the company like a virus. Within an hour, calls came in one after another from material suppliers for the Neptune project and channel partners for the Galactic Heart, each more forceful than the last. The 3 core projects, like 3 giant dragons with their necks squeezed, instantly fell into paralysis. Financial Director Fatty Liu's shirt was soaked with sweat as he trembled while reporting the situation to the CEO. CEO Zhong Chiming was so furious after hearing this that he nearly threw his phone to the ground. "A single accountant leaving can bring 3 core projects to a halt. Liu Ming, how are you managing as the CFO, Boss Zhong? This really isn't my fault. It's Zhong Li from HR who insisted on laying off Su Qing. I even defended her before, saying she's highly skilled and indispensable." Fatty Liu quickly shifted the blame. "Zhong Li." Zhong Chiming immediately called the HR department. "Come to my office right now." When Zhong Li walked into the CEO's office, she still carried a hint of pride, thinking her swift and decisive actions had earned her recognition. "Mr. Zhong, were you looking for me? What's going on with Su Qing? Why is she being laid off?" Zhong Chiming got straight to the point, his tone unfriendly. "Mr. Zhong, this Su Qing has a problematic work attitude, refuses to follow management, and even talks back to superiors. I believe such an employee is detrimental to team stability." So, Zhong Li began to present her prepared set of arguments. "So you just removed the heart of the company's 3 core projects." Zhong Chiming's voice was as cold as ice. "Now all account reconciliations are completely stalled, and the partners of the 3 projects are waiting for us to make payments. The total penalties add up to over 8 figures. Are you going to take responsibility for this?" Zhong Li's face turned pale in an instant. Finally realizing the magnitude of the trouble she had caused, she had thought Su Qing was just a low-key, hard-working minor figure, never imagining she held such a crucial lifeline. I didn't know it would be like this." She didn't say anything when she handed it over, just as the office was in chaos. An unexpected person pushed the door open and walked in. It was the chairman, Lin Shen, who had cut his trip short by a day and rushed back from Europe. He still carried the weariness of a long flight on his face, but his gaze remained sharp as a blade. Observing the tense atmosphere in the office, He frowned slightly. What's going on? Seeing Lin Shen, Zhong Chiming seemed to have spotted a lifeline and quickly stepped forward, recounting the entire sequence of events in detail. The more Lin Shen listened, the darker his expression grew. When he heard the name Su Qing, a subtle ripple flickered in his deep eyes. A bookkeeper named Su Qing was laid off, and then 3 projects came to a standstill. His voice was low, revealing no hint of emotion. Yes, Chairman, we can't reach her now. Her phone is turned off. Lin Shen fell silent for a moment, then strode with his long legs straight toward the finance department. The entire company's senior management held their breath and followed behind him, sensing that a massive storm was about to break. 05 The shocking truth, losing the wife. When Lin Shen entered the finance department, it felt like a pressure cooker on the verge of exploding. The ringing of phones, the anxious discussions of employees, and the clatter of keyboards blended together, creating an atmosphere of impending doom. His presence instantly silenced the entire space. Bring me all the personnel change documents for this month, especially the layoff list. Lin Shen's voice was not loud, but it carried an undeniable authority. Financial Director Liu Pengzi and HR Manager Zhong Li scrambled to fetch the documents. Soon, a thin layoff list was handed to Lin Shen. He lowered his gaze, his long eyelashes concealing the emotions in his eyes. His fingers were slender yet strong, turning the pages one by one. When his gaze finally settled on the 2 characters Su Qing and the bright red terminated stamp beside them, the temperature in the entire office seemed to plummet to freezing point. Everyone around could feel a terrifyingly oppressive aura emanating from the chairman. The next second, the earth-shattering outburst erupted. Who approved the layoff list? Who the hell fired my wife? This roar, like a sudden clap of thunder, sent everyone present into a state of shock and disbelief. Wife. The chairman's wife, Su Qing, is the chairman's wife. Zhong Li's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground, her face as pale as paper. She finally understood why Su Qing had remained so calm in the face of layoffs, and she finally realized just what kind of powerful figure she had offended. Fatty Liu also trembled all over, nearly falling to his knees. He recalled how he had once bossed Su Qing around and even called her immature behind her back. Cold sweat instantly soaked through his back. Lin Shen's eyes were bloodshot. Like a beast ready to devour its prey, he grabbed CEO Zhong Chiming by the collar and slammed him against the wall. I entrusted the company to you, and this is how you manage it. You even dared to lay off my wife. Chairman, I didn't know. I really didn't know Su Qing was your wife. Zhong Chiming stammered in terror. Lin Shen released him and turned to Zhong Li, who was trembling like a sieve. Why did you fire her? I saw her disobeying management. Zhong Li's voice trembled with tears, fear nearly robbing her of the ability to think. Disobeying management, Lin Shen sneered, his smile colder than ice. I think it's you who doesn't understand management. Get out of here, right now, immediately. I don't want to see you in this company ever again. He no longer paid attention to the stunned executives, took out his phone, and dialed the number he knew all too well. Sorry. The number you have dialed is powered off. The cold, automated voice message only fueled the growing unease burning within him. Ching ching, where on earth are you? 06 interview with New East, phone off, out of contact. The next morning, I received a call from a headhunter, who was the HR director of another domestic tech giant, Vertex Technology. Hello MS, Sue, we came across your resume on the recruitment website and are very interested in you. Would you be available for an interview this afternoon? Their efficiency and sincerity surprised me a bit, and I gladly agreed. In the afternoon, I arrived punctually at the office building of Vertex Technology. The interviewers were none other than the HR director and their CFO. The interview process went very smoothly when I mentioned that I had independently designed and operated an efficient financial accounting system for 3 different types of core projects, which could reduce the reconciliation cycle by over 70%. The CFO across the table lit up with interest. Miss Sue, if I may ask, why did you leave your previous company? With your capabilities, you should have been someone they would have tried hard to retain. The CFO inquired curiously. I thought for a moment and replied candidly with a smile. Perhaps. It was because I didn't quite align with the company's corporate culture. I prefer a place where professional competence determines one's value. This response, delivered with neither arrogance nor humility, earned nods of approval from both interviewers. At the end of the interview, the CFO even personally escorted me to the elevator entrance. "Miss Sue, we are very satisfied with you. Please wait for our good news. Trust me, it will come soon." Walking out of the Vertex Technology building, I was in a great mood. This recognition from the outside world dispelled the last bit of gloom brought by the layoff. I finally felt in the mood to turn on my phone. As soon as it powered on, a tsunami of missed call notifications and text messages flooded in, dozens of missed calls, all from Lin Shen, and hundreds of WeChat messages. "Ching Ching, please call me back when you turn on your phone. I beg you, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have let you suffer like this. The company can't do without you, and neither can I. Where are you? Tell me your location. I'll come find you right away." Reading these anxious words, I could imagine Lin Shen's frantic state. I sighed. This man, usually as steady as a mountain, loses all composure the moment it involves me. I was just about to call back when an unfamiliar number beat me to it and called first. I answered the phone, and a polite voice came from the other end. "Is this Miss Su Ching? I'm the CFO of Vertex Technology. We just held a meeting and decided to formally extend an offer to you for the position of senior manager in the finance department. Regarding the salary, would now be a convenient time for us to discuss it." I was stunned. This efficiency is truly astonishing. 07 Thunderous Purge, all hope lost. Within the Fengkai Group, a storm had long been brewing. The chairman's wife turned out to be an inconspicuous accountant in the finance department, and she was even laid off by the newly appointed HR manager. This news spread like wildfire, instantly reaching every corner of the company. Those colleagues who previously mocked me and kicked me when I was down now looked ashen-faced and restless. They frantically tried to recall whether they had ever spoken ill of me in public, fearing that retribution would come later. As for Zhongli, the instigator, she was utterly despondent. She was called into Lin Shen's office, along with Liu Pengzi, the financial director, and several senior employees who had openly ostracized me. Inside Lin Shen's office, the atmosphere was so tense it felt like you could wring water from the air. Manager Zhong, Lin Shen sat in his executive chair, fingers interlaced, his voice unnervingly calm. "In your opinion, what kind of employee is my wife?" She has strong professional skills. I failed to recognize her talent. I was arrogant and abused my power." Zhongli wept uncontrollably, her words stumbling in a chaotic confession. "It's too late for that now." There was not a trace of pity in Lin Shen's eyes. "Not only did you lay off a core employee of the company, but you also bullied my wife. Fengkai Group has no need for someone like you. From this moment on, you are fired. Moreover, I will have the legal department pursue all losses you have caused the company due to your negligence." He then turned to the colleagues whose faces had turned ashen. "And as for all of you, my wife has worked diligently at this company for 5 years, only to be met with your exclusion and mockery. Do you think the company still needs to keep you around?" Those people were so frightened that their legs went weak, and they begged for mercy repeatedly, but Lin Shen had already made up his mind. The entire afternoon, Fengkai Group underwent a major personnel purge. Everyone who had ever shown hostility toward me was dismissed for various reasons. The entire company was on edge, filled with tension and fear. After handling all of this, Lin Shen returned to his empty office and leaned back in his chair, exhausted. He looked at my photo on his phone screen, his eyes filled with regret and longing. He mobilized all his connections and resources to search for my whereabouts, checking my credit card spending records, looking into flight and train ticket purchases, and even sending his assistant to investigate all the homes of friends we might have visited. The results were all fruitless. It was as if I had evaporated from the world. He didn't know that I was currently in a cafe not far from Fengkai Group, happily finalizing the details of my employment contract with the CFO of Vertex Technology. 08 New job secured. Phone confrontation. Manager Sue, welcome aboard. I hope we have a pleasant collaboration. The CFO of Vertex Technology stood up and warmly shook my hand. I signed my new name, Su Ching. The salary on the contract was double what I earned at Windracer Group, and the position came with ample respect. My heart was filled with an unprecedented sense of fulfillment and achievement. This feeling was far more solid than relying on Lin Shen's halo. After dealing with the new job, I finally remembered that mess I had almost forgotten. I looked at the last message Lin Shen sent on my phone, time-stamped 1 minute ago. Ching ching, can you call me back? Even if you're going to sentence me to death, let me hear your voice. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This man is really getting better at sweet talk. I dialed his number. The call was answered almost instantly. Ching ching. Lin Shen's voice was hoarse and urgent, filled with the wild joy of something lost and found again. You're finally willing to talk to me. Where are you? I'll come right over. I'm fine. You don't need to worry. My voice was very calm. I'm sorry. Ching ching. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have left you alone at the company, making you suffer so much injustice. Lin Shen, I interrupted him. This isn't your fault, and you don't need to blame yourself. How can it not be my fault? I'm your husband. Yet I failed to protect you. His voice was filled with remorse. Ching ching. Please come back. Okay, the company can't do without you, and I can't do without you even more. You can have any position you want. Vice President, CFO. Just come back. No need. Lin Shen, I paused, took a sip of coffee, and said slowly, I've already found a new job. On the other end of the phone, there was a deathly silence. I could even hear his breathing instantly become heavy. 09 crazy chase for wife conditions. Half an hour later, a black Bentley screeched to a halt outside the cafe where I was sitting, its speed bordering on madness. The car door swung open, and Lin Shen stumbled inside. He was still wearing the same suit from the morning, but it was now hopelessly crumpled. His hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, and a shadow of stubble darkened his chin. A far cry from the confident, decisive chairman of the group he usually appeared to be. He rushed straight up to me, grabbing my hand with a grip so tight it felt as though he might crush my bones. What did you just say? A new job? Where are you going? He stared at me intently, as if I were his last lifeline. Lin Shen, calm down. I struggled a bit but couldn't break free. How can I calm down? He growled under his breath, drawing sidelong glances from nearby patrons. My company is on the verge of collapse because of you, and my wife is about to run off with someone else. How can you expect me to stay calm? Seeing the panic and fear in his eyes, my heart softened, and I sighed. I didn't say I was running away. I'm just changing jobs. That's different, he insisted stubbornly. If you're at my company, I can see you every day. If you go somewhere else, I won't feel at ease. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, burying his head in the crook of my neck. His voice was muffled, carrying a hint of grievance. Ching ching, don't leave me. Okay, I know I was wrong. I'll never let you suffer again. What did you do wrong? I patted his back gently. You've always supported my work and respected my choices. It was me. I just wanted to prove myself. But I still let you suffer. He lifted his head. His deep eyes filled with tenderness and pain. Those bastards, how dare they treat you like that? I've already fired all of them. I watched him quietly, my heart filled with a whirlwind of emotions. This man truly loves me and genuinely cares for me. Lin Shen, do you know, during those 5 years at Feng Kai, I was truly exhausted. It wasn't just the work, but also the invisible pressure. I was afraid others would find out about our relationship. Afraid of being labeled as someone who climbed the ladder because of you. So I worked tirelessly, wanting to prove my worth. But in the end, it's my fault. He interrupted me, cupping my face. I neglected your feelings. I always thought that as long as I was around, no one would dare to bully you. I was wrong. Ching ching. Give me another chance. Let's start over. Okay, back to Feng Kai. No, he shook his head, back to our own home. As for work, you can do whatever you want. If you want to come back, the CFO position at Feng Kai will always be yours. If you want to go to Apex, I'll acquire it tomorrow. If you want to rest, I'll travel the world with you, as long as you're still willing to be by my side. 10 The Queen's Return, Terms of Agreement. Looking at the undisguised affection and urgency in Lin Shen's eyes, I knew that the war triggered by the layoffs was one I had won. I didn't agree to him right away. I withdrew from his embrace. Leisurely stirring the coffee in my cup, deliberately leaving him hanging for a while, Lin Shen watched me nervously, at a loss, like a prisoner awaiting a verdict. Acquiring Vertex Technology. Chairman Lin, what a grand move. I looked at him with a half-smile. As long as you're happy, he immediately expressed. I don't want you to acquire it. I shook my head, then extended 3 fingers toward him. 3 conditions. He immediately understood. I nodded. Tell me. I'd agree to 300. Let alone 3. First, I said, looking into his eyes, word by word, I want to return to Phone Kai Group, but not as the chairman's wife. I want you to formally issue an appointment letter, appointing me as the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, of the group. Convene a board meeting and announce my capabilities to everyone, not my identity. No problem. Lin Shen agreed without hesitation. Second, the company must immediately establish and implement strict anti-office bullying regulations. Setting up an independent oversight department. I don't want to see any capable employee being marginalized and overlooked just because they don't understand social niceties. Absolutely, this is a lapse in my management. I'll have the legal and HR departments handle it right away. Third, I paused, my tone softening yet remaining resolute. You must promise me that from now on, whether at the company or at home, you will remember that Su Qing is first and foremost Su Qing. And only then your wife, my career, my dreams. They need your equal respect and support. After hearing my words, Lin Shen was stunned. He looked at me, his eyes gradually reddening. He didn't speak, but instead held me tightly in his arms once more, with such force that it felt as if he wanted to meld me into his very bones and blood. I promise you, he solemnly vowed in my ear, I promise you everything, Su Qing, my CFO, my queen, my beloved. 11. The new rival in power. A week later, Phone Kai Group held a meeting for all senior management. Lin Shen held my hand as we walked up to the podium together. When he announced to everyone that I, Su Qing, was appointed as the group's new CFO, the audience gasped in unison, followed by thunderous applause. Dressed in a sharp professional suit, I stood beside him, composed and confident, returning to the finance department. I spent less than 2 hours sorting out all the accounts for the 3 messes that had already caused tens of millions in losses, and promptly arranged for payments. When the suppliers received the payments and my apology calls, a major cooperation crisis was quietly resolved. Everyone in the finance department now looks at me with awe and admiration. Rather than the previous disdain and pity, they finally understand that what I possess is more than just the title of chairman's wife. After work, Lin Shen didn't let me drive myself. Instead, he came to pick me up in person. Back home, he put on an apron and prepared a lavish dinner for me. CFO, you've worked hard today, he said, placing a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs into my bowl, his eyes filled with affection. From now on, the company's financial power is all in your hands. As for my allowance, please go easy on me, my dear wife. I couldn't help but laugh, and the last trace of gloom in my heart completely vanished. Outside the window, the city's neon lights shone brilliantly. Looking at the man before me, who had cooked for me with his own hands, my heart was filled with warmth. This wave of layoffs had been like a touchstone, not only revealing my true value in the workplace but also testing the depth of our love. True equality has never been about matching status or position, but about the equality and resonance of souls. I, Su Qing, can be both the CFO who strategizes within his business empire and the lover who waits for him to come home for dinner.